but fame and popularity and money and all of these things necessarily.
Oh, Lordy. What's wrong with fame and popularity and money?
Everything. What are you talking about?
What's going on? What's wrong with that
You
stuff?
can only find the truth if you're poor and not listened to in like a cupboard somewhere. All right.
I hate that argument.
Well, no, but it's funny because, again, everything he's saying applies to his own existence and career as a journalist and TYT, obviously. But
Radicalize their creators. And when I say radicalize, I want to be clear about one thing. I personally have no idea if Tim Pool believes the things that he says on YouTube. And I honestly think it doesn't really matter that much, because the actual impact of the things he says is far more important. And the actual, the degree to which those ideas are spread to, again, an audience that reaches, at his peak, was over 100 million views a month. And so the question of like whether Tim has been radicalized is, it's not really, has this one person gone further to the right, but the content that they produce, that you can track and that you can watch change over time. So this question of whether he likes to call himself a centrist or a disaffected liberal or any of those terms that he likes to use, to me, isn't really interesting or one that could be answered, whether it's by reporters or even, you know, a very well-trained psychiatrist who sat down with Tim Pool for many hours. That's not the point.
Shouldn't... So they spent the first 5 minutes just character assassinating and attacking Tim, but has he brought any examples of something that he thinks Tim has done or reported incorrectly?
No, it's MAGA old stuff.
I guess, yeah. Oh no, you're right. He did say Tim supported Trump. You're right. That was the example. I forgot.
This is 100%. No, this is 100% it. It's basically they view support for MAGA as crypto fascism.
Right.
So if you support Trump, if you support the right wing in that kind of way, then they just view that as like 2 steps away from fascism and neo-monarchy.
It's impossible to support Trump and be a good journalist. We all know that's the facts. That's the facts as we know them.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go right ahead.
No, this is such a fascinating component of your reporting, and it's something that you...
I feel like we're further than we were, but maybe not.
No, we're not. We're fine.
Kind of see play out in real time. And what I find fascinating, look, you write, here's an excerpt from your piece. A former digital media journalist who originally built up his name with on-the-ground reporting and live streaming, including stints at Vice and Fusion, Pool now postures as a rational centrist, you write, or disaffected liberal who grew to loathe the excesses of the left. And so when we talk about...
I mean, you can criticize him you want, but that's a pretty fair description.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's spot on. What's the matter here? Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Sure.
It's again, it's support for MAGA. Like I'll be a broken record on this because I think MAGA people see Donald Trump as like the avatar through which to preserve the republic, whereas leftists and progressives view MAGA as like an attempt at like neo-monarchy.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's literally, and like for me, because I have liberal and libertarian sympathies, I'm not a fan of the cult of personality around Trump. So
yeah.
Just
right.
Hey, we're getting a lot of background noise from you, Connor.
Yeah, let me mute myself. Yeah,
maybe just kill those kids. I'm not. that was a joke, guys. Come on.
Don't actually do it. Lucifer the Doorman for 20 Canadian. Thank you so much, Lucifer. Says this TYT video is pure projection. You will hear Anna claim that Tim does all the quote evil things that TYT does on a daily basis. I got a huge laugh at this video.
Yeah.
Yes. Very true. Very true.
The grift, right? I mean, it's really repurposing a strategy that we've seen on Fox News, where they'll seek out a black person who'll come on the show and say awful things about the black community. And in order for this,
do they do that?
I don't know. I don't watch Fox News enough. I'm assuming they're not roaming the streets like, excuse me, fellow black person, do you hate other black people? Would you like to be on Fox News?
I could see there being some segment where the person wants to blame certain things on the black community, but you would have to get a black person to call out their own community. Obviously,
I think what's actually happening, she's describing this in the most negatively hyperbolic way she possibly can. Yeah, uncharitable way, is that, you can't criticize, you can't talk about like race issues as a white person unless you say, well, it's obviously racism against black people. And so what they'll do is they'll get a black person to say, oh, well, maybe the black community or lower income black community, really, which is what everyone's talking about, has problems that are not because of, racism, not because of the evil white man doing et cetera, et cetera. And so she's characterizing that as, oh, well, they're just black people hating black people.
Right. Yes. That's what I would think. But right. I mean, there has to be people that have that opinion. The thing that I really hate about this argument that she's making is that you're basically saying that black people shouldn't go on Fox News, which,
yes.
Why would you? That seems a little, I mean, isn't it better for black people to be involved in all aspects of life? I mean, you're kind of segregating people by race.
Well, no, I mean, this is kind of what you're talking about with Larry Elder thing. Like people don't care that much about race anymore. They care more about, or maybe they still do, but they care more about your political affiliation than race.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, you can, they only want the black person who's going to be the shield, who's going to be promoting, whatever the leftist cause is that they're advocating for.
But I see a lot of black people on Fox News that are not even really talking about race issues. I mean, they have like one of the left guys who's a black person. And I mean, they don't, the
five. Yeah.
Yeah. They do tons of segments that have nothing to do with race. And he's on there.
Right. Well, yeah, so sorry, I swim in these circles, so I feel like I have to be like the progressive translator. The problem is that there, any black representation that's not explicitly like a representative of progressive ideals on these platforms, they're going to be advocating for bootstrapping. They're going to say, I did well. Look at Ben Carson, look at Larry Elder. They're going to say like, hey, you got to. I'm getting yelled at by a 3-year-old. So. All right, hold on. I'll finish this thought after I'm done being yelled at. I'm gonna mute myself.
All right.
Okay.
Strategy to work, you would need someone like Tim Pool, someone like Jimmy Dore, someone who pretends to be on the.
Oh, look at that! I didn't notice that the first time through. Throwing Jimmy Dore under the bus now too.
Yeah, that was so weird. I did notice that because. I mean, I do think Jimmy Dore is crazy, and we found a Jimmy Dore video that we have to watch.
He goes full commie. Oh my God,
it's insane, and it's funny because some people are always like, Jimmy Dore is one of the good people on the left. I'm like, oh, you say that? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's funny because she's like, they only have one way of looking at the world, and I guess this all comes back to, you see this from Kyle Kalinske, who was a TYT guy too, where they always say, oh, everyone knows what the right way to run society is. Everyone knows what the best moral thing to do is, and thus people who disagree with me are inherently dishonest and evil and lying. Yeah. And I guess that plays into this too, because she's saying she thinks Jimmy Dore is actually pretending to be on the left or something. Yeah. Which he's further left than they are.
That is a great way to characterize it, Sitch, because I mean, I'm just under the impression that people are different and have different ideas about different things. Right, and every single thing I've ever encountered in my life kind of is evidence of this. How can you live in this world where you think everybody thinks the same but are hiding their true feelings? What kind of world is that?
It's so weird because it's like, people think that when they're a child.
I know.
and people, like, to me, when that really hits home to you, like the difference is like the first time you're in a serious relationship with like a girlfriend or boyfriend or something, and you realize like this person has an entirely different way of looking at the world, and their family has an entirely different way of looking at the world. And a lot of your conversations and interactions with that person is kind of the meshing of your two completely different worldviews.
Exactly.
That you don't really experience maybe if you're just friends with people. You only experience if you're like living with someone or really close to someone. And I don't understand how people have made it to adulthood and are married and have children and have been in relationships and just don't realize this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I can explain this.
Explain it. Oh, progressive soothsayer. Oh, progressive.
Yeah. It's because they live in California. So even the Republicans.
You're right.
So even the Republicans out there are going to be like social progressives, right?
Right.
So and that's the thing is like, so looking at Larry Elder, Ben Carson, or whatever, all these self-made men who kind of are, they're capitalists and they advocate for kind of like bootstrapping and all that kind of stuff. The reason why this is viewed as like being a sellout is because not everybody can bootstrap. Mm-hmm. So, and obviously these people are successful. So they do well in the capitalist system. So it's kind of like viewed as like, oh, well, you were able to like climb the ladder, but that's because of like unique family circumstance, or maybe you were born intelligent, or maybe you had people who were looking out for you, and then you're kind of kicking the ladder out behind you. So that's kind of like the progressive criticism of bootstrappers.
Do you think Larry Elder is like kicking the ladder out from under him, though? I don't really think that applies.
Well, you're saying that's how they perceive it.
Oh, okay.
So that's what he's doing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know enough about Larry Elder to comment on his positions.
Yeah.
Sean, again for $5, says Sitch, the Gilded Age was in the late 1800s, not the 1920s. Oh, okay, my mistake. The median wage for the industry worker rose from $380 to $564, and from 1880 to 1890, a 48% increase. Oh, well, there you go. You're right. I was thinking from 1900s, 1920s. You're talking about, see, Gilded Age this says 1870s to 1900s. So there you go.
Well, I do agree that the conservatives are generally adhere to the bootstraps argument. I don't think that it's to the point where they think there aren't challenges for people, and there aren't even challenges that are, virtually impossible for people to overcome, which I think the progressives would mischaracterize their position as being that conservatives don't think that there's any challenges to overcome. They think anybody can bootstrap it when,
right.
Society has drifted to the point where I do think there are significant challenges that face the younger generation today than faced my generation.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
No, and that's a good point. And you were just talking about earlier about, some people on the left who can't understand that other people see the world or perceive the world very differently. And I've noticed this from a lot of people on the right too, who are the ultra motivated, pull yourself up by the bootstrappers.
Right.
And they don't understand, when I talk to them, they don't understand how lucky they are that they were basically born as like a highly motivated individual, the type A kind of person. And like this has been true for myself. It's been true for many people I know. If you're not born like that, to become like that is an incredibly difficult, it's possible, but it's an incredibly difficult process and journey to go through.
I call myself lazy a lot. And it really is a perception thing, because I am very motivated, and I've always had a lot of motivation to do things. And I perceive myself as being lazy because I always feel like I could do more. But a lot of people look at me and say, "Oh my God, like I could never do the kinds of things that you're doing." So perception is a lot of it. I just having goals and wanting to accomplish those goals, I guess that's not a thing a lot of people have. So, or there are a certain number of people who just don't dip their toe in those waters. But it's so fulfilling. I mean, if you can muster it, do it.